649 Discord members, and none of them know how good Pendulum is. Hello and welcome to the 4th episode of Trinity Weekly. Today we're discussing Time Thief Redoer, which is the big bad doo-doo man of this format. I've also got an exclusive interview with Lonesome Strategos, who won the most recent local tournament, and then are going to be covering the deck I played in that tournament. But first, big shout out to BladeYGO for making Why You Should Play Trinity, which has now received 7,000 views on YouTube, which is considerably more than any views this channel has. Yeah, Blade and Trusty Nail Ding, the Patreon who requested this, big thanks. We got 200 members from that, so if Alex Simo, Nim, you wanna hit me up with a Trinity video. But now for that real talk, Time Thief Redoer. Oh my gosh, this guy is going to destroy the format. Yeah, recently released in Savage Strike, and it had zero playtesting, well, a little bit of playtesting, because we didn't have any time to playtest it, because it's a TCG exclusive. And at first glance, it's quite good, and then when you actually play against it, oh my god, this card is really strong. So 2 level 4 monsters. Typically, because of the effect, you're going to summon Armageddon Knight to send a Phantom Knight's Guide to the graveyard, and then you get the Trap monster, so you can make this card in one card with just Armageddon Knight. Once per turn during the standby phase, during each player's standby phase, you attach the top card of your opponent's deck to it as material, which is kind of just irrelevant. You're not going to be getting anything important off of them. But as a quick effect, you can detach all of its materials, pretty much, to get various different effects depending on what you detach. So if it's a monster, this guy turns into a wind-up rabbit for a turn. It just banishes itself and returns during the end phase, which is pretty good. It's 2400 attack on just a completely generic rank 4, which can save itself and returns to the main monster zone, so that you can then make another extra egg play on your next turn. This guy's pretty good just because of that. There's not much to talk about here apart from the fact that it dodges all removal unless you can chain something to it. So you always need like the second spear, to quote Thragtusk. Yeah, this guy's pretty annoying to deal with in general. If you detach a spell, you get to draw a card, but it doesn't happen too often. Like, around a third of your opponent's deck maybe is going to be spells, so once, well, 1 out of 3 times on their turn you're going to get a spell. But you have to remember that you attach during each player's turn. So if half of their deck is monsters, there's a 50% chance that you'll get a monster during their standby phase. And then during your standby phase, there's another 50% chance you'll get a monster, and then you'll pass it back to them, so you have 3 chances to like get the monster, which pretty much always happens. If you get a spell, it's just nice, like you get to draw a card. This by itself would make the card fine. The really annoying part is when you have a trap attached to this guy, and ugh. It's basically Zodiac Dryden, but better, sort of. Place 1 face-up card your opponent controls on the top of the deck. Now historically, if we look at the Trinity ban list, you can see there's Zodiac Dryden is banned, and Orbital Hydrolander is banned, and Altagai Silk Quitius is banned, and Kyrian is banned, yeah. All of these things are quick effect, disruption. This one doesn't target, and it can hit any face-up card, which is pretty dumb. Now, the downswing is that you have to have a trap attached to it, but your first turn Armageddon Knight combo gets the trap on it, so it's pretty much always going to have it from turn 1. And also, if your opponent's playing like any number of traps, which they are because it's Trinity, you've got those like 3 different options, different chances to actually get a trap card onto it. And even if you don't, you can just keep banishing it and returning it until you do hit a trap card, and then eventually you'll spin their thing and they'll just be really pissed off with you, which is what happened to me in the finals of the last locals. This card's really good. Now, getting into the like nitty-gritty of it, I don't think it's obscene. Like, it's really strong, don't get me wrong. But I don't think this is going to be a format-destroying Mega Threat. I think any deck that can play Redoer should play Redoer. I think if you're playing Armageddon Knight, you should probably just throw in the Phantom Knight and the Shade Brigandine, because, like, why not? Even if you don't want to make this, you can still make a different rank 4, but let's be honest, why wouldn't you want to make this? I think it's just a really staple card. We're going to be seeing a ton of it, but I don't think it's obscene. There are a lot of ways to get around this, let's be honest. The reason that it's so good right now is because people don't understand how it works. There's so many like ruling calls because it attaches as an effect and there are all these different things it works with. The way to get around this is you've just got to have negation, right? They activate the effect and you chain breakthrough skill and then you ram over this. Or whatever. You can Ash Blossom it, which is something that Strategos mentions in our interview in a second. because it detaches as effect in that you could potentially draw a card. So you can Ash Boss on this. Ghost Ogre is really good against this, it kills it. Anything which, once it tags out, you can like negate it and then sort of kill it somehow. There are a few ways to get around it. Any permanent negation, such as Lost Wind, which is co-forbidden, other stuff like that still works. Obviously, if you negate the summon, Blackhorn is looking to be really good. Chaos Trap Hole is almost main deck worthy at this point. So many decks just play Dark Monsters. This card's really strong. I think this is also pushing Orcus Bardich over the edge. I think that deck was already quite good, and now they have a very, very good card that they can just throw in there and make occasionally. Yeah, I think eventually this will get co-forbidden, maybe even semi-forbidden, but right now, just throw in a bunch of stuff to deal with it, put some stuff in your sideboard, and wait it out. It'll get hit eventually. Next up, we have our Lunalight interview. I know nothing about Lunalight, so maybe Lonesome Strategos can Luna enlighten me. So I have with me today Lonesome Strategos, who recently won the most recent Trinity online locals. Just getting into it, you're kind of a new player, you've been playing for like a little while. What got you into Trinity format at the beginning?
Honestly, I don't remember the exact thing that brought me over to Trinity, but it was mostly seeing the sort of Reddit threads that was posted every once in a while. When I would see like the cup reports with like the top 4 players or whatever in their decks, and that was I sort of ignored them at first, but eventually I started getting interested in them when I started seeing them over and over again and seeing all these weird deck lists with a bunch of old classic cards that I recognized combined with these new archetypes. And from that, I just started going on and reading more about the format.
Yeah, great. I think it's really cool that like all these different diverse decks, and like you mentioned, these sort of like old weird tech cards that haven't ever seen play in the TCG can kind of be relevant. Are you enjoying it now that you've started playing?
There's something really weird about seeing like Mother Grizzly played in Altergeist. That's great.
Well, it does such Meluseek. So for this tournament, you chose to play Lunalight, correct?
Yeah.
So why did you choose to play Lunalight out of Mother Grizzly, Altergeist, or anything else you've seen?
I'm actually not really sure I'm not really sure exactly what brought me to Lunalight, because it's not a deck that I like played extensively in the TCG. I played it like a very short bit online and never really continued with it. But I think what drew to me is there's a lot of discussion about the set that it came out and the new support came out in. Like people were talking about how trains were doing well in the recent tournaments, how like I was building heralds and using some of the new Cyber Angel support. I thought I might as well try out.
Yeah, I think it's the new there's the new fusion monster that came out in, was it Sast?
Not Sast, there's Legendary Duelist.
Yeah. I haven't seen any Lunalight players. There was one like about a year ago. Did you just build this deck from scratch, or have you had like much experience with it in the past?
It was mostly built from scratch, using a combination of what I know from playing like a month or so of Trinity with the little bit of experience I have from like seeing what Lunalight does.
Yeah, cool. Have you got any like mentions? Have you got any sort of notable points or comments on how the deck runs? I really don't know much about Lunalight at all. It's kind of an OTK build, but the main boss monster is actually banned. How do you cope with that?
I was a bit sad with seeing Leo Dancer banned, but honestly, at least in the context of Trinity, Saber Dancer and Panther Dancer, the two slightly bigger or slightly smaller in that case fusions, generally were good enough because with Panther Dancer you can give it basically once per duel kind of immunity to targeting, which is basically close enough. And Saber Dancer is just really big, so the 3500 on Leo wasn't a big problem.
How much did you use each of the fusions each game? I think in our games you only made the new fusion. Have you used the other ones as well?
In general, I found that the deck is pretty flexible when it comes to getting out the 3 fusions. So I generally depended on the situation. I generally summoned them sort of equally. I think I summoned Saber a bit more, but in general, if I was more fearful of destruction, I could make Panther Dancers if I thought they had Mirror Force or something. Well, if I was only afraid of like targeting, like when this guy had the set Subterra Behemoth Umatrix, I would go for Saber since it had just blanket constant targeting protection.
Yeah. Would you call it more of like an aggro deck? Are you trying to like win as quickly as you can? In some of our games, you managed to like sort of get quite a bit of advantage throughout.
I do think it is definitely more of an aggressive deck. Though it isn't always meant to like OTK, the main strategy of the deck is to sort of keep the pressure on your opponent at all times because the rank 4 engine for Lunalight is great for just pumping out Xyz every turn. But then you want to go in and build up your resources for the fusions and either break their field or put them in such a heavy defensive that they can't get past the protection of the fusions.
Yeah. Going into the rank 4 stuff, there's a particular rank 4 that a lot of people are talking about recently, Time Thief Redoer. Have you got any thoughts on Redoer?
Are you sure? I thought it was Diamond Direwolf.
Have you got any thoughts of Redoer just in general in Trinity? Quite a lot of people are scared about it.
Redoer is frankly absurd, definitely, but I don't think it's ban list material. To be honest, I don't think it's so busted that it's something that we need to immediately hit. It's not like a Towers or a Masters where like you need to have like a Kaiju to get rid of it. There's a bunch of counters that you can have, like Lost Wind, Breakthrough Skill, Ghost Ogre, Ash Blossom. All these cards really can counter Redoer, and as long as you have like a swift way to get rid of it, then it's gone.
Yeah, you can Ash Blossom any of the effect, right? If they just have a monster on it, you can still Ash Blossom it. Yeah, I think that's...
Yeah, that's what I learned this one.
There's quite a few
weird, but it definitely makes the card a lot more easy to take care of.
I think one problem that a lot of people have with Redoer in general is they don't really know how to counter it. Because it's a really weird card, it doesn't detach as cost. Not many of these cards exist, and not many people know how to sort of get around them.
And actually the detach as effect, not cost, is also pretty interesting, because it procs Yellow Martin's search effect, which is actually a really cool synergy with this deck.
Most people have been playing it in Orcust. Is it more of like a generic tech card? Do you think every deck can play this?
I do think any deck can play it. I mean, it's rank 4. You can play any rank 4 in any deck. But there are a couple of reasons why it's so good in Lunalight, why I made it so constantly. Is the first reason, again, is because it can, detach Martin to get the search effect off. But the main reason is that it was a very easy way to just clear your extra monster zone for the fusions. Because I found that if I made something like Silent Honor Arc or Dark Rebellion, it would usually just sit there in the extra monster zone and not die. And therefore you couldn't just,
It's not easy to link it away or anything. Yeah.
Yeah, I still run Landfoe just to have that option, but usually that's not a good thing to do.
Yeah, you have to sack another monster as well. We're moving on from Redoer. It's been played in a lot of decks. Have you got any thoughts on the metagame at the moment? People have been talking about Orcust still. Do you think there's going to be much else?
Honestly, I'm pretty awful at general meta calls. I think I played against Orcust actually in the tournament, and I think they still have tricks up their sleeve. And I think that it's a flexible deck just because of how good graveyard-based dark monsters are. I think they'll still be a solid choice, but otherwise I don't really know that much about the overall metagame.
Yeah, fair comments. Well, you did well enough in the online locals. Did you lose a single match?
I did not lose a single entire match. I went 4-0.
There we go. Lunalight's not just in the TCG, folks. You heard it here.
I'll make sure to win the next one.
Good luck.